What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Here with another fantastic interview. You know, it's Saturday night or Sunday morning for you, and right after a crazy Peg Leg record show that y'all know, went fantastic. And I'm so excited to be joined by ex Mr. Bungle, Umlaut. There we go, got it right. Saxophonist, guitarist, hyperpop, this, that, alternative, all the buzzwords extraordinaire. So welcome, Mr. Bear, to the podcast. How are you doing?
Thanks. Thanks so much. I'm doing great.
Of course. I really appreciate Dan reaching out to me. This is like a thing that I love to do. If any bands, any artists just want to talk and chat, you know where to find me. Because presented with this amazing opportunity, never in a million years. So I really appreciate you. Now, I want to jump back into the conversation we were just having because I feel like that'd be funny to get on film. Talking about
Sure.
the pronunciation of our names. So if you want to go back into
Oh,
where
okay.
the
Yeah.
bar bear.
Yeah. No, I mean it's spelled B-A umlaut R. Uh, but that's just like an old German spelling. Maybe it's a tribute to my mother who's German. And then this nickname, but it's like we were just talking about like the whole thing of like correcting like pronunciations, tomato, tomato kind of thing. Living here in Melbourne for 20 plus years. I find that like anyway, I'm always kind of living in this world of like, getting these listening to these Australians and their lovely accents. No, so I was like, so bar, it was like some people, if they meet me for the first time or whatever, they'll say, "Hey bar, what's up?" And then I will try to not correct that sort of pronunciation of it because it's a bit cringy, doing that thing. And it's a thing that I was saying that I got from my mom, where she would do the law, and she was just trying to kind of, as a mother, you try to help your kids not, to not mispronounce things, so to speak. And so it's like, I try not to. So if anybody wants to call me Bar, that's all good.
I know it's. I
Even
was saying that's so funny because like the same thing happened to me where a lot of people call me Jai. I've had Spanish teachers call me Yay. All sorts of
wow,
crazy pronunciations. And we had a gag in like sixth grade. Beginning of sixth grade, you didn't know anyone, and all the teachers would call you Jai. And me and my friends had a gag where it's like, which one would be the last one standing to continue calling me Jai? And one of my orchestra teachers took him till eighth grade, like midway eighth grade. He was like, "Oh shit,
yeah,
it's not
that's funny.
Jai." And yeah, so I love the whole pronunciation stuff. The way I say it is just it's character. It's unique.
Yeah, and it's also it's kind of fun. It's like to me, I think mispronunciations are really fun. It's like makes me think of somebody like Tim Heidecker, where a lot of his shtick is fumbling a punchline or something. So he's like, and then he just keeps going. Like whereas other people might be like, oh no, I stuffed it up. Let me try it again. And his whole thing is like not sticking the landing and then just making a face, cocking his head, and continuing on. So I love that. Like actually. When I proposed to my fiance, I said to her, "Do you want to get engaged?" And she laughed, and she knows I'm an idiot. So it's like, it's kind of fun to play around with that a little bit. And it's such a culture centric thing to say like, "Oh, it's a mispronunciation," and let me just correct you here. So I love when people call me Bar. And one of the coolest kind of former classmates at university that I had was this old veteran kind of jazz pianist, this black guy named Teddy. And he'd be like, "What's up, Bar?" And I mean, how am I going to correct that? It's just like, no, no, no. Actually, it's Bear. So anyway, probably exhausted this topic
No, I
for
love it. And
everybody. Yeah,
honestly, I'm saying the pipeline, as a journalist, you kind of have to find the ways to transition into different questions or whatever. I got one
sure.
right now from, talking about sticking the landing with Tim. That's kind of like improvisation. And when you listen to, I think, a lot of the music and even just a lot of the nature of the music that you create, what I see is it's rooted off of improvisation. It's rooted off of this like flowy kind of free state that comes with really
Mm,
experimental music, something that's kind of breaking like conventional songwriting, right? Like listening
yeah,
to your top like five Spotify songs, which is kind of like the thing you would do to check out a new artist, and
yeah.
your ears are kind of being pulled in all these different directions. Let's talk about that. As a musician myself, I love improvisation.
Yeah.
What are your stance on improvisation while writing this new record? Maybe how did some of these jams and grooves grow out? Maybe certain stories. I just kind of want to discuss that because I mean, improv is the most important thing in music for me.
Right. Yeah, yeah, totally. I'm not the greatest improviser. I think it's really actually one of my weaknesses. And so in a way I'm kind of afraid of it, and it brings up a lot of fear for me if I'm like, whether it's just like, hey man, just set it up, but it's also it's pretty exhilarating when something comes off, and or you pull something off, or you sort of surprise yourself with something. I guess with a lot of this music, like say for example this track Vinny, on this album, this forthcoming album, speaking of pronunciations, is désolé. It's French for sorry. And there's a whole, anyway, that doesn't really matter, but it's like that track Vinny is was we tried to do it as kind of raw and without getting too precious about it or this or that, and you'll hear it sounds kind of chaotic, and there's a lot of that kind of, well, sort of not really improvisation, but just kind of like lack of really strict, like we got to get it just right, and look, which we might have done with a lot of the other songs. But uh, but having said all that, I come into my compositions with like really specific kind of structures, I guess, in a way. So it's sort of like the architecture or the frame of the thing is really kind of specific. But when I get into the room with those other three guys, I try to yield to more things and let more kind of stuff happen, and let the band sort of arrange things, or I take suggestions, very openly, is and kind of the best idea wins. So I'm not really so much of a dictator, even though I am kind of a control freak in a way, about the music. But there's not really like, hey, let's jam. Like I'll never come into a room and say that, even though the very last track of this album was something that came out very organically and very impromptu, like, and it's almost like another head of the band, Umlaut, which when Angus goes into this, the guitar player goes into this kind of like stream of consciousness, almost a character kind of voice, and then we just sort of follow along, and it's very fun and funny. But improvisation doesn't really inform the compositions too much. It's like, so the compositions are kind of set, and then like stuff will happen that I'll try not to sort of like get in the way of or resist so much, because a lot of the real magic happens in so-called kind of, and for lack of a better description, improvisatory kind of like moments. And it's like, yeah, Angus is really great for that. Danny's really great for that, is but Shane and I or the bass player and I are kind of like, we more like, yeah, let's not let this get too far into the freak out realm, and try to keep it on tracks. I don't know. It's like, because this album is it's very kind of 3 minute, 3 to 4 minute kind of pop song uh, oriented. It's just like boom, 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 one thing after another. In a lot of ways, I was going to say, I'm sort of getting ahead of myself. It's sort of like I was sort of clearing out the closet of like, because I'm listening to the album, trying to listen to it objectively, and I'm like, wow, there's a lot of like, you know, heartbreak songs in here. It's like sad sack, like bad breakup, not even bad breakup, but just maybe emotional breakup kind of like theme going through this stuff. And I'm like, I'll have moments where I'll listen to it, Jay, and I'll be like, oh, is this too maudlin? Is this too kind of like cringy? Is this too, I mean, it's not emo per se, but it is kind of emotional, and like the themes of it's just like, oh God, there's a lot of this going on. And it wasn't really an intention. I wasn't, it would have been like, I don't know. And again, people will draw together whatever themes relate in their lives, and then be like, oh, it actually means this, and da, da, da. And I'm like, 100% yes, please. Because one of the problems I have, not problems, but with these interviews, when people go like, so tell me about this album. And I'm going like, what? Like, and then I'll ask, like I asked you before we got on, I said, like, have you heard the songs? And then it's like, it's more interesting, I think, for me, certainly, it's just kind of go, what does it mean to you? And somebody might be like, it all sounds too old. It sounds like middle-aged guy music. And I'm like, all right, fair enough. Or they might be like, yeah, it's not really my style. I don't really like it. Or I like more of this or that. And I'm like, okay, cool. And all that stuff is valid, more than me kind of going like, well, this is what the song is about, and you should feel this, and da 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 da. I'm not like trying to spoon feed things to people, but I guess with some of this heartbreak things, they were a lot of these songs were written after kind of breakups or something, and then that emotional, the emotional horrorscape of uh I just had a moment. I realized people are going to mishear that and hear what they never mind. It's a lot of these songs are kind of like were written around, in these kind of like whatever the aftermath of a relationship or something. And I just, as with like the Secret Disposable Boyfriend song, which is sort of a suicide fantasy, sorry if I need to give a trigger alert there or trigger warning or whatever. It's like I just wanted to sing something that was kind of like telling a little bit of a story about a very real thing that happened to me. It's like, and again, sometimes they're not really autobiographical. They can be kind of like a little bit more impressionistic. And as far as like, God, I'm really just ranting right at this
No,
point.
I
I'm
love
gonna
it.
stop.
I love it. Okay, well, if you're gonna cut yourself off, then I'm gonna present with my thoughts.
Well
I
played.
love I love these ideas that you're kind of playing with because I agree, and I don't know if you want to hear my opinions on the tracks that I've
Please,
heard,
yeah, yes, yes, yes,
but
absolutely.
to me, it's something that's a grower, and that's how all good music is.
Oh,
As a music
thanks.
journalist, as a music reviewer, none of the best music I've listened to clicks right away. Like
Right.
Swans, Mastodon, Dinosaur Jr., Juju, even some of the most like Merzbow, some of the most experimental stuff.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
even you
yeah.
go into like King Gizzard and Lizard Wizard, who are friends of the show, and from, Australia.
Yeah, yeah.
All you kind of need to like grow into it. And I love that because you first listen to it, it's gonna take me a few months. Hell, it may take me like a year, but I see the vision, I see it, and I just need
Yeah.
to formulate it. I need to like let it sit, let it simmer, let it
Yeah, of course.
caramelize.
And it might even, I love that. And then it might even like be a thing where like, yeah, I don't know if I like it. And that's fine too. It's like, I always feel like sometimes I was saying this to one of my old friends. I was going like, man, like sometimes I have to kind of swim through a bunch of my garbage music and record it and go to these great pains to record things, and then to come out the other side and go, that idea kind of sucks, or it's whatever, or it's not, it doesn't really whatever. And but it's like you go through the crap to get to the good stuff. It's like digging through, a junkyard maybe on some level with but the process of even just working up these things where it's like somebody might go like, yeah, why are you going down that track? That's a terrible thing, because whether it's my ego or my thing is has to go through that process of it. But I hear what you're saying about like something being kind of I think there's a handful of things that I listened to the first time and I was like, holy crap, this is amazing, and just like, and then I was just like, wow, this album is perfect, or the set of songs, or this or that. Maybe a TV on the radio had an album of songs, maybe back in 2006 ish or
They're
something,
incredible.
and then Animal Collective had the Merriweather Post Collective or Post Pavilion, or I forget exactly how it was titled, but some Deerhoof stuff has been like that, where I'm just like, oh my god, this is just perfection, and I'd never want to. In fact, there was one of these Animal Collective albums where my favorite song on the album, um, I would skip it every time I was playing the CD in the car. This is back in the day. A CD is this little plastic thing that we used to listen to music on. Anyway, and I would skip the song because I'm like, oh no, it's too good. It's kind of like this thing. In fact, Bumblebee Shoes off of this album is about these things, about this, like you find a perfect pair of shoes, right? Your favorite sneakers, and you buy two pairs of them if you can, and then I put one of them in the box, or I leave the one pair in the box, and I never touch them. And it's this weird thing where I want to have like if I had enough money to own two Lamborghinis, if that was what my thing was, I would put one in like a you know climate control garage when I would never touch it or drive it anywhere. And then I take another one and I just like bump it up against the curb and let people key the shit out of it if I parked it in a rough neighborhood or whatever. And I'd be like, whatever, man. Like I don't, and I wouldn't worry about it. And I'd beat the shit out of it. And people would look at that Lambo. It's all beat up. Like it's like this person lives on their own, whatever. And so it's this whole thing. And there's this kind of thing of like preserving a thing. Like Bumblebee Shoes is all about that. And then like as a little kid, I had these little black and yellow shoes, and they were my favorite shoes. And I still have my old shoes, but I would love these shoes so much that I never wore them, and then I outgrew them.
Happened to
And
me
so
too.
maybe, yeah, So it's a very real thing. And then even on this favorite comedy sketch show by Tim Robinson, I think you should leave. There's a bit where he's the dad in the restaurant with his daughter, and he's having to tell the daughter why she can't do a thing, and then like a guy, Bob Odenkirk is this other guy who talks about he's going like, yeah, I've got doubles of the Barracuda, and he starts bragging to this girl about how the dad and him have this relationship or they're old friends, and you know, and then he's like, actually, I've got doubles of that thing and triples of the other one. And I was like freaking out, going like, oh my god, this is the whole Bumblebee shoes thing where it's like, and what that represents, I think, is trying to stop a moment in time and go like, oh my god, if you're eating like a perfect dessert or a perfect meal, you're going like, I never want this to end, and you're trying to stop time. And so that's what that song's about anyway. But I
It's
think it
incredible.
represents something bigger, like philosophically or symbolically, where it's and then it's like growing up is kind of realizing like, no, the things are going to wear out. The favorite shirt, maybe if this were my favorite shirt, it's going to get, the neck is going to get all, you don't try not to wear it to bed because you're going to wake up and then the neck is all stretched out or something. uh and these kinds of things. I'm going to stop talking right now because I'm off on another tangential rant.
No, again, I absolutely love it when guests do that. It gives me time to, think about my responses. First of all, how dare you think that I don't know what a CD is? I'm hurt. I run a label. I'm telling, like, I
No,
spent
it wasn't for
hours.
you.
I know.
It wasn't even for you so much as it is kind of like making, because I know you're much younger. You're probably old enough to be my
I
kid,
make
probably.
CDs.
Or yeah, you're young enough to be my kid, and it's such a, it's funny. Like I was, I mean, I don't know. I'm really kind of bummed on some level where this album isn't being like put out in like a CD format. And maybe we can address that at some point going forward, where we're like, I want to make CDs of this album for whatever weirdos still listen to CD players or have CD players in their cars, maybe. Because yeah, it's just strange how quickly things move, and then it's just like, oh wow, and then like you can't access a thing because you don't there's CD players don't exist or anymore, or nobody listens to music like that anymore.
Hey, I'll tell you that
So
people
it's
still buy all the CDs. I spent a long time making 25 custom. I put drawings in all of them, some
oh wow,
deluxe, like really
that's
put my
awesome.
heart and soul into them. They sold out. And it's funny that you're talking about the emo stuff, right? What kind of like the
Yeah,
corny, cheesy, whatever some people may say about it. And the local scenes, especially in the South, but all over the United States, is all emo. It's all one
oh
form
wow,
or another of emotional music. And honestly, I think
yeah,
that's so interesting because there's like a generation that thinks that emo is really corny. This generation that lived
sure,
through the like OG emo, the 2000s. And then there's like my generation that kind of sees all like the messed up things that are happening and is kind of, changing, maybe turning emo into like a metalcore kind of thing or into like an
yeah,
alternative kind of thing. Or maybe like emo violence, if you know what that is. It's just like yelling and noise, almost like basically noise.
yeah,
But
yeah.
the kind of the evolution of emo is so fascinating to me because yeah, there's always going to be people saying like all this crap about, you know, even like Bungle songs. There's a lot of emotional Bungle songs and people talk crap about it, but it's like the missing link because this generation loves it. I know your generation loves
It's
it.
anyway, yeah,
It's
it's again, it's
crazy.
like there's it's I mean, I don't know. I guess on some level, philosophically, anytime you put a label on a thing, I mean, it's like the great philosophers would say, as soon as you tell a child that what kind of bird that is, the saying is that the child fails to see that it suddenly can't see the bird anymore, or as soon as you put the name of a tree on a certain kind of tree, they fail to see the tree, and it's meant to kind of make your brain break your brain a little bit and go like, what, that doesn't make any sense. We all know the thing of like, as soon as if you say a word, you repeat a word in a trance-like way, it stops. You kind of like have this.
Exactly.
You have this mild, low-level hallucination where you're like, "Whoa, book." If I say book 1,000 times, it's like it's suddenly I'm not. My brain's not going to know what to make of it by the time you get, because it's. And I don't know what that phenomenon is. I'm sure there's probably some Reddit heads out there who could be like, "Well, that's called da 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 such and such a phonia or something." But calling something emo as well, it's just like going like, I try to be honest insofar as going like, if I don't like a thing, right? I'm doing those air quotes intentionally because it's going like that doesn't prove anything. My feelings don't prove anything. How I feel about a thing, all it tells me is that there's a sensation or a thing happening, and I would do well to question it and go like, am I right in this? Is there an intuition? Is this true? Is it accurate? Is it, and not enough of us ever do that. Where so I'm trying to say that like I realize it's most of the time it's because I don't understand it. If I say, oh, I hate that such and such jazz category or calypso music or even steel pan music. And I know people could be like, no, I just don't like the sound of the thing. And that's fair enough. But there's no accounting for taste, as the old saying goes. But I think like, I gravitate very much towards like emo stuff, for lack of a less, if that even is an uncharitable term.
It's an
But
umbrella term. I mean,
yeah, totally. And again, it's like certain people, yeah. So I don't know.
I mean, metal, jazz, pop. Like, I was
Yeah.
looking through the genre of the new album, and it says pop. And like, I get it. There's pop structures, but in what world is this
Yeah.
pop? And I get it's just because Joshua Homme, maybe like the white whale of interviews, like
Yeah.
a dream guest. He was talking about how genres are kind of just these stupid labels to, like you said, distract from the actual music. I love how you
True.
you brought that up. It's actually pretty smart. And it's so true because you think of emo, you're thinking of My Chemical Romance, and that is emo. But there's so much more to emo. And
Yeah.
I'm
And
not
it
on a diss because I'm gonna go see
like
him in October. I'd love
I'll
him.
hear somebody will put like a Deftones track behind some reel or some kind of thing, and I'll be like, "Damn, this is so good," and it makes me want to go listen to the thing or whatever other kind of thing. It's like I'm just inherently, for whatever reason, into that, and like even My Bloody Valentine, that Loveless album from 1988, is just like it basically spawned an entire like shoegaze kind of like genre, so to speak, or whatever that is. And it's such a beautiful kind of sonic experience. And um, I don't know, I'm just really into it. And so like going back to the Umlaut stuff where it's like secret disposable boyfriend or some kind of thing, I was like, I was feeling really shit. And then I did this thing that was very emotional. Even the demo was pretty amazing as far as like I was really impressed. I was like, oh wow, this is like every time of course it's because I went through the drama or the heartbreak of it. But
Mhm.
I love when somebody sings something that's very real to them and something they very clearly lived through, and then they're doing it and then they're giving it to the world. And I mean, the world could go like, oh, dude, like, check yourself. Where like, you're supposed to create stories and not do this kind of, hard on your sleeve kind of thing. And again, I don't know that anybody's really saying that. But I'll recognize it within myself, maybe in some of the cringier kind of things, whether it's catatonic youths putting a thing up there where it's really kind of like, oh wow, this is kind of cartoonish, and I get the joke that's obviously here. This is whether it's because somebody could say like, yeah, Bear's taking himself too seriously with some of these things, and I'd be like, okay, that's fair, and I wouldn't go like, no, I'm not. It's in the
That's a
defense
great
of a thing.
mindset on everything, honestly.
Yeah,
Especially in the climate right now, where everyone thinks they're like Pitchfork, and Pitchfork has the worst musical opinions of all time. Everyone thinks they're someone, and everyone is someone, but you know what I mean? It's this
yeah,
like this stupid egotistical kind of thing going on, where even like for me, I'll tell people, I love Queens of the Stone Age, and they'll give me shit for it. I'm wearing a shirt right now of them, and they'll give me crap for it, and it's like, what's the problem, And now my
yeah,
taste is different. Now, like we were talking about that it grows on you, good music grows. Um, my favorite band is Swans. I've interviewed like three of their members.
wow,
I'm very
yeah, yeah,
disappointed they're not coming on their final tour to Atlanta. And I saw them, they were incredible. Like they play
yeah,
loud
man,
as hell,
totally,
all
yeah,
the things. That's not music you can listen to on a daily basis. That's music you
right.
listen to once a month and it blows your mind, and then you leave it untouched for like you gotta like reflect on it, you
Well,
know?
I gotta do more homework on the Swans, but
You
yeah,
need
I
to.
am aware. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's incredible, and that's how I feel about your music. That's how I feel about Mr. Bungle.
Thanks,
That's
man.
how I feel about like all these funky, types of music. And I don't want again now you're making me ramble. I want to
No, you're
talk
good.
about I got two questions. Let's see if we can get them both in time, okay? The
Sure.
first one is, so your college experience was super interesting to me just because like their class was diabolical for lack of a better term. so many musical legends came out of this one school at this one time. I mean, do you
It was
look back
wild.
and just think like, how did this happen? You know, how do you, my question is, now looking at your musical career, seeing so many incredible legends and so many incredible bands, is there a little bit of weight and pressure on you knowing that your classmates are like maybe the like you got the biggest stoner rock band of all time in my opinion. It's like it's crazy to me, you know? So just tell me your feelings on that. Tell me the pressure, if any, that
Well,
you felt on
well,
that.
it's I'll try to answer it as I mean it was really a lucky thing, like, and that's a really key piece, is that it wasn't like I was searching out, I'm like, I gotta find the coolest, most amazing musicians. They found me, and it was in a weird thing where it was a weird space and time where Mike had gone off with Faith No More, and then they were in the kind of a transition of needing a different horn player. And then I met Trevor and Trey actually playing drums and got assigned with them, probably because I was playing drums in this jazz quartet setting. Trevor and Trey were on guitar and or bass and guitar respectively, and then it was a total luck kind of chance thing. So that's where this is the weird thing, people a lot of times we make these things are going like, yeah, so and so, or the Elon Musks of the world, or this and that. These people are so, because they're so smart and because they're geniuses and they know how to do the thing, and da, 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 da. And that's true to some extent, but most of it has kind of is due to like a person's like luck of the birth, and like they were born to a certain parents, which they didn't, as far as we know, they didn't choose those parents or those circumstances or all the things, and so that was an insane amount of time of good luck. Like I remember, like I did my drum audition going into the jazz combo thing, and then I got lumped with Trevor and Trey. And I remember I was standing there in the hallway with some other young musician who was coming getting assisted. We're looking at the things in the hallway and the thing, and he's like, "Oh man, you got Trevor and Trey," and it was like, I'm like, "Who are they?" I just was like, and it was probably because my drum audition was too loud. I was probably hitting the drums too loud, and the jazz director Gil Klein at the time probably was like, "Oh yeah, this noisy idiot doesn't know about dynamics, so I'll put him with these other guys that are in a rock band and da do this thing," because he was more aware of Trevor and Trey's thing.
Mm.
But then next thing you know, Trey's asking me to kind of be in the band or something. Maybe Trevor, uh, I think it was Trey that was asking me like, "Hey, do you want to play horns?" Because they knew I played tenor sax in like the jazz band, other stuff, some other group. And I kind of very reluctantly, and I literally said it like this. I was like, I don't know, man. I'll give it a try. Like that's just. It wasn't like, oh yeah,
Legendary
man, go, go,
words.
go, go. Like if I knew how great they were and what potential they had, and their the kind of the mystique and the legend that preceded them, if I was in any way aware of it, because I'm an 18-year-old idiot. I'm just like, all I can think about is myself. And that's kind of still true in in a lot of ways, if I'm honest, right? But it was a total luck of the thing. And on some level, I know there's like these towering musicians or amazing multi-instrumentalists that are of the same age range and whatever. And they could easily look at me and go, why did this asshole get in, get picked? Because I'm better on this many different levels of this and that and than Bear and blah 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 and I'm actually the person that should have been, the person that was tapped to be in the band at that time. I mean, and here's another key piece. After the very first gig I played with Mr. Bungle, which was at, I think, a thing called Lumberjack Days, which no longer exists, which was it was a weekend drinking fest set on campus, mind you. So this is all back in, this shows you how like much times have changed, and this would never happen nowadays. So it was like basically college students running around, underage drinking happening left and right. And we played at this thing called the macaroni and cheese bar, which was like, and it was Danny the drummer's thing, that with some of his friends, that they were literally just selling macaroni and cheese, like the thing that all college students like eat probably too much of. Anyway, and that's what they were selling as their thing. And then there was like a stage in the back of this so-called little stall, like, and then that was set up on some milk crates and was totally wobbly and funky. Anyway, Bungle did like a gig. This was my first gig with them, and it was so chaotic, and like people are getting into it, and all the moshing and stuff. This is around the funk metal days. God love them. So the stage was collapsing and stuff was falling down and stuff was all chaotic. And I hadn't learned the music so well that had memorized it. So I still had music on a music stand, sheet music on a stand, playing these horn parts because I still hadn't like internalized all of them yet. And then which is already such a rookie maneuver and looks so ridiculous, is chaotic. Because Trevor used to say like, "Oh man, you like watch out, man. We do dog piles at our show. You don't know what's coming." He was kind of trying to do this thing and psych me out a little bit maybe. And anyway, so the gig was semi kind of chaotic and then disastrous, at least at the end of it, because the stage was collapsing and then it sort of just fizzles out and whatever. And I was so butthurt um, after this gig because I want everything to be just so and just perfect, and I want it to be great, and I know how good things can sound. I had such a high this perfectionistic kind of like thing that I was like I tried to quit after the very first gig, and it was just like, and Trey very lovingly and compassionately and tellingly said like, he's like, "Oh, you're not going to get out of this band that easy." And I, God love the guy for having that faith and kind of seeing that like, oh, Bear's just having a little meltdown and he's trying to kind of like, he's all, and again, like what, like as if it was my fault or as if this bad gig, not that it was all bad, but it was like, I just wanted it to be better. And then, and all these things. And I had such high hopes and I could see the potential of how great this band could be. And all this stuff because they were literally the most amazing musicians in one place, and I was like, man, I can't f this up, or da, da, da. But then the gig was chaotic, and then I was trying to quit. It's like, are you kidding me? And then Trey was just like, he cut, and then
Yeah.
and it's
No,
like,
it's
what
that's
am I?
incredible.
It's and then they
Absolutely
sort of like
crazy.
they kicked my ass and kept me in it, and then all these years later,
The rest is history.
yeah, and then so, but like I think your original question was like, where is there all this pressure and all this kind of thing? It's like I feel like now, kind of going forward, if there was to be like new Bungle music coming forth, if that were going to be a thing, and I'm always kind of like hoping and praying and trying to manifest that on some level, sometimes more actively than others, but even despite the challenges that would be there, it's like I don't know, I just have this kind of like this eternal hope. It's but going back to the thing, it's like there would be a lot of pressure, people, because it's like, because they say it's like those three main albums, from the 90s. It's like people are like, no, 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 your legacy's intact. How could you mess with that? And it's just like, because people think like they things, this kind of legendary status is kind of floats around with that band and these musicians, and so it's just like, yeah, there would be a pretty high bar, but that band has always been about confounding people's expectations and messing with people's expectations a little bit. So there is a certain amount of pressure, but also not really, because that band has never been about like, what we should do, and then writing it out on a piece of paper, or even communicating via email of like, hey, you know what, and that dastardly S word, like, we should do this. It's like that's never come up as a thing. It's never been the way the band worked. It's never been a thing of like, let's go on into the boardroom and on the whiteboard and figure it out, and then, okay,
Hmm.
this is the next step. It's always just something that's happened organically. So as I try to send ideas to these people, and then that I think might be worthy or whatever, I'm just, it's there's a little bit of resistance around, as because we're not all in the same room at the same
Hmm.
time, and
Okay, so
there's not, yeah.
I hate to cut you off, but we've got like 30 seconds left. I don't want to get cut off by Zoom. So
Okay, you're,
thank you
yeah,
so much. We got all
no
the questions
worries.
answered. It's perfect. Have a great rest of your day. Everyone look
All
out
right,
for the awesome new album coming out very, very soon.
Desolate,
Desolé.
yeah.
And have a great rest of your morning.
You too, man. Thanks so much.
Stay in touch.
All right.